Hello. Hey, Mary. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? I still don't know what day it is. Hello, Barb. Welcome. Hey, everybody. As you're popping on, say hello. Welcome to our first, hey, Pat, our first technique talk of 2026. Oh, hello, Lois, Jan. How's it going, everybody? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So we'll get started in a minute or two. It's almost 7 o'clock. Today we are going to do, this is going to be a two-parter. No, and I'm trying to straighten out my screen, but I seem to be making it worse, don't I? It'll be a two-parter. Today is part one. Oh boy, there we go. Today is part one of this two-part technique talk. Hey Susan, hey Marilyn, hey Marianne, hey Winifred, hello. Today's part is going to be a new, well, not totally new, but a different paint smushing technique using acetate. It'll probably be a little hard to see, but this is a larger piece of acetate. Hey Vicki. So the acetate is larger than the piece of paper, or this is actually watercolor paper that we'll be using. All right. So you'll need a piece of acetate that's larger than whatever your substrate is going to be. And because we're using water, I would recommend a watercolor paper or a mixed media type paper, a heavier one. Okay. That is going to work best for you because you are going to be using water. These are some samples that I did today. So this is on the Distress watercolor paper panels, but it can be any watercolor paper. I do tend to like to use the smooth side. There's always a rough, not really a rough, but a textured side and a smooth side. So I did use the smooth side. And I'm using my Distress Oxide minis, which right now, probably because they're new and the little minis are like one of my favorite things. So I keep adding colors to my collection. This technique, you'll need inks, and it doesn't have to be the little ones. It can be the big ones too. You'll need watercolor paper. You'll need your piece of acetate. You'll need water in a spray bottle. And then you can use either a brayer or one of our stamping assistant tools. This is the original prototype that I made way back when, even before I was painting them. So this works as well. You can use your hands to do this technique, but sometimes you tend to get not necessarily fingerprint marks, but uneven pressure, I guess, from your fingers. Okay, so 7:01, let's get started. Well, we have really been started, so I have been talking a little bit. You might want to also have a sponge, any kind of sponge handy, just in case that you have to move your ink around, because sometimes when you're using the ink pads to smush, you might get like the square from the ink pad, and smudging it with a sponge kind of breaks that line for you. All right, everybody ready? Hey Barb, how are ya? Okay, so you can use as many colors as you want, but just remember, the more colors, the more chances you have for everything to mix together and, you know, kind of get sludge. So just be careful on your color selections, and how close you're spacing them and overlapping them and all that. Because when you put your water on, hey Gail, your paint, your colors are gonna kind of go together anyway. Okay, so I am going to start here with picked raspberry. And so my acetate is over my paper, and I am going to put down ink using my paper as a guide. So I'm going to try to keep it not necessarily in the lines, but you know, kind of like where my paper is. All right, so we're going to put a little bit of pink down, and we're going to use some spiced marmalade. The only bad thing about these little ink pads is I can't read the names very well. Of course, maybe if I wore my glasses, I would be able to see. All right, put a little orange down. Maybe some blue. This is probably broken china. Yep, broken china. I always tend to gravitate to my colors. All right, let's put a little bit of mustard seed. And then just a touch of twisted citron. Really a touch, because I didn't leave a lot of room, did I? Okay. All right, so as you can see, hey Renee, as you can see, I've got my ink down right over where my paper is. All right, I'm gonna spray water, so I'm kind of clearing the deck here. My spray sometimes get a little cuckoo. All right, so now I'm going to spray water on here. All right, now the colors are moving pretty good, so I'm not too worried about lines. And then I'm going to pick it up and flip it over right on top of my paper. All right, now with a brayer, you could see if you just brayer over it, you kind of get more coverage because you're moving that water around under there. Thought I got some paper pellets, but I didn't. All right, and then I am going to lift this up and set it aside. And then I'm just going to dab where the water is pooling down here. All right, and then I'm gonna blast it with my heat gun. Now, after you give it a little dry, you can take the ink that's left on your acetate and add some more water, or not. I didn't really get any lot of water over here, so I'll add a little bit more water and kind of just dab it around to get another layer. All right, we want to use up our ink. Don't want to waste any of that stuff. So we'll dab that on. I think this is a really good way if you've been struggling with doing the paint smooshing technique where you just do one color at a time. This might work out better for you because you're putting down all your color in one shot. All right, so there is background numero uno. And we'll do one more with some darker color. So when you switch your colors, you do want to clean your acetate off so that you don't mix your colors up, right? We don't want the bright pastels when I'm going to use some fallish color. Oh, it's wet, so now it's stuck to my mat. Oh, the struggle is real, people. All right. All right, now, so we dried and cleaned off our acetate. I'm taking another piece of watercolor paper. Again, you can, I don't know if you'll be able to see in the camera the texture, but I like to use the flat side just because I feel like the ink moves better. All right, so we're going to put that right over our paper again, and this time we are going to use ripe persimmon. And we are going to use rustic wilderness. Here's some green for you, Mary. Rustic wilderness. And then, of course, my favorite, Uncharted Mariner. Put that in there. And then I think I'm going to do a little bit of an accent with, how about brushed corduroy? Kind of a yellowy brown here. Now remember, when you do this, you can do all the same techniques that you would do on any kind of distress ink background. So if, like, after you got to this point, you wanted to splash water on it, you could absolutely do that. I'll show you that when I get done with this. Now, then this time I'm going to use our stamping assistant. See how that works. So giving it a spritz of water. You don't want to drown it, but you want to make sure you have enough water because you do want the ink to move. Give it a little pressure. Lay down some ink there. Pull it up. Dab our edge here. Mary's asking, do you have to fill all the space? You absolutely can go either way. You could leave white space if you wanted to and get those nice distress edges where the water dries. Or don't leave any white space. I think it kind of just depends on what you're going for. But just also remember, this is part one of a technique that we are going to finish in February. So when we finish this, the next part of the technique involves embossing powder. I know that makes some people happy. All right, so like I said, don't waste your ink. Press it around. Get all that nice texture. Maybe add a little bit more water where you didn't have a lot of water on the edge. Right, and this is our standard smooshing technique with acetate, right? That's how we do it if we're just doing one color. Hi, Valerie. Welcome welcome, welcome. Glad you could make it. Yep, you'll be able to catch the beginning on replay. Absolutely no problem. All right. So what I was saying was, this is one that I did earlier. You could do all the same techniques that we have gone over before, and we could spray a little bit of water on here. All right, and let that sit for a minute, and then we'll pull it up so you can get some water marks. I don't know if you can see where I've got water on there or not. Let that sit for a minute, but then we are going to dab it up. It's a little bit harder to see on camera, and also because it's a more textured paper, the watercolor paper, but you can see some of the little watermarks there. All right. All right. Any questions? One more. Let's do a all neutral one. Let's make Mr. Holtz proud, shall we? Walnut stain, hickory smoke, and I don't know, gray burlap. Let's see what happens. All right, where's our acetate? Do one more here. Purple and blue. Would you rather see purple and blue, Gail? All right. I just bought some purple oxide, so I should probably use purple and blue. Only purple and blue. A couple of different purples. All right, let's see what we get here. This is prize ribbon. Nice. Kind of a, not really royal, but not really navy. All right. I'll even leave some white space, Mary. How's that, so you can see? Okay. Teal. All right, now you guys are all piping in with some requests, aren't you? All right, we're putting water and we're flipping. Flip. And we are taking our brayer and brayering. And we are dabbing where the ink always pools. So you can see some white space there. And let's not waste our ink. Kind of dry right there. Give it a spritz. All right. What do you think, ladies? Any questions? Okay, so this is one with a little bit of white space. And this has a little bit of white space on the edge, but some nice layers, all different colors. All right. Okay, so again, this is step 1 in a 2-part process. Next time, we will be doing the second part of the technique with the Distress Resist Spray and Wow embossing powders. These are some of the metallics, so gold, bronze, and silver, and platinum. All right, that will be the next part of this technique. The first Tuesday of February, whatever day that is. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I will put these aside for that day, and we will continue. Questions? Any questions? I know that you probably are wondering, does the thickness of the acetate matter? No. This is a thicker piece. I just like that because it's not flimsy when you try to flip it, but you could absolutely use a thinner acetate or a thicker acetate. It just has to be a non-porous surface for this technique to work. Yes, I did say the next part of it will be with Distress Resist Spray, which is basically like liquid embossing powder. All right, so you like the pastel one and the blue and purple? Yeah. I kind of like, they all have different qualities. I think it really is just going to depend on what your project is. It's kind of how I look at it. What's going to go with my project? All right. Gail's asking if the inks were a mix of Distress and Oxide. Nope, it's just Distress Oxide. You could absolutely do this with regular Distress ink also. You might have to do more layers because it'll be a little bit more translucent. Okay, but it absolutely would work with just the regular Distress inks. All right. Any other questions? All my little mini tins are full. I need some more. Thank goodness I know where I can get some. Off topic. Can the AL and Create stamp be special ordered? You'll have to check to see at the store, Valerie, but depending on where it's available, yes, things can be special ordered. You'll have to check at the desk, though, in the store. Oh, yep. There's Renee. Renee just answered you, Valerie, too. All right. Everybody good? All right. Let's wrap it up then. Another technique talk in the books, the first one of 2026. Thank you for joining me. And I look forward to our second part of this technique. You guys are going to like it, I think. Spoiler alert. No, I'm not spoilering. You're going to have to wait and see. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. for those of you that are cropping tomorrow, have fun, fun, fun. And if you're not cropping tomorrow, maybe you should be. All right, everybody. Enjoy your evening. We'll be seeing you soon.